Hey guys, welcome to the Love of Books, Movies, and Happiness. My name's April, and today we're doing a review of Heather Graham's Ghost Shadow. It is book 1 in the Bone Island trilogy. This is my third time reading this one. I read it a couple of years ago, came across it, thought I'd check it out. Wasn't a huge fan of it, so I put it down, walked away from it. Read it about a year ago. Not as bad of a book as I first thought, but still not a huge fan, so I put it down. This is my third time. So today we're just going to go over the storyline, some of the characters, and my overall thoughts on the book in general. If you like my videos so far, then please keep watching all the way through, but also please like, subscribe, and hit the bell for any other future videos. Or check out my other videos as well that I've done on book reviews. I'm a huge book person that loves reading, and usually I like trying to share what I think about each book. So to start with our review today, I love trilogies because it's a set that's not overly long, so you don't have like a long-term commitment to read 7, 10, 50 books if you don't want to. Trilogies are just a set of 3 books. Story starts in 1 and is usually wrapped up in the 3rd. It's a nice way to get a good, well thought out story usually without dragging on too much if you're not a huge fan of it. For Heather Graham, she is a thriller. I would say my library does romance, so yeah, she's romance. She's got romance in here. It's a love story, but I would also put her as more of a thriller romance, or more of a paranormal action-y romance. And she's got quite a few different books out there. I've read a couple of hers in the past. Her writing style is good. It's not an overly complicated to read writing style. She's not one to overly detail her stories, but at the same time she gives enough detail so you know what's going on. Her characters are usually pretty well written to where you can follow along and believe that they're real without finding them too out there or too realistic, as I've come across in some. But just overall, I like her writing. She's got a good writing style that's just easy to follow and usually enjoyable. For this book, we meet Katie O'Hara. She lives in Florida, and she's grown up in a small town in Florida pretty much her whole life. She's lived there. But Katie is special in the sense that she can see something most people can't. Katie can see and speak to the dead, which can complicate things. She has one ghost in particular that seems to have attached himself to her and is kind of her guide, so to speak, to everything. He kind of goes with her wherever she is, and he'll have conversations, and he's a very amusing character himself. Katie runs a karaoke business as well as helping run her uncle's bar. She calls it Katieoke, which is a huge draw for tourists and those looking to have a little fun. She is hoping to be able to get her hands on a local museum. It's been shut down for a few years now. The reason the museum got shut down is actually the start of the story. At the very start of the story, we find that a person doing museum tours is giving one of the more fascinating stories of Florida history about a young woman who fell in love with someone other than her husband. But then unfortunately when she died, he took her body and kept it for himself, essentially. He kept it in a room where he could be with it, essentially. A little creepy, a little odd, but I actually have seen this story before. I'm not sure if it's just a Florida story, but I have seen something similar before. But while the tour guide is giving his love story idea to everyone and kind of doing a tour, his museum is all like mechanical parts that are supposed to show different historical figures. They end up coming across a actual person instead of a mechanical figure. She's murdered. And unfortunately for the tour guide, the person murdered was his ex-wife, who publicly left him for someone else. So of course they shut down the museum. He knows he didn't kill her, but he's convinced that someone else did, but he ends up leaving because he can't deal with the unanswered questions that are surrounding everything. A few years later, Katie finds out that the museum might be up for sale, so she reaches out with the hopes of opening the museum. Well, it's being kind of owned by two people, family members at the time, and one family member had no issue with it, but the other one, the tour guide, has decided that he needs to come back and get some answers about what really happened to his ex-wife. Was she murdered? Who murdered her? And why was he framed to be the suspect? Which, of course, is a problem for Katie because now he doesn't want to open up the museum. So the overall storyline is that through no fault of her own, Katie is drawn into this mystery of what happened to the ex-wife. Was she really murdered? Did her ex-husband actually murder her, or was there someone else involved the entire time? And does this actually go back further than anyone realizes? Overall, it's not a bad story. Does have romance in it. You know, I'm not going to give it away how, but there is romance in it. There is a couple love scenes in there, so you do get a very mild spice to it. And then of course you have your lovers' quarrels and then the whole mystery and how are the ghosts tied into it. It's all there. All the characters are very amusing, entertaining characters. The ghost definitely provides a lot of comedy relief to everything. You know, it's the question of, will they find the answers? Will Katie survive? And will the romance last? If you want to find out, you should go to your local library or your bookstore and pick up a copy and see what you think of it yourself. It is a total of, once I get to, let's see, before the excerpt here. So it is a total of 351 pages, with like 3 pages of an excerpt of the next book, which the next book in the series is Ghost Night. And then the third one is Ghost Moon. This book came out in July of 2010. Ghost Night was August of 2010, and then Ghost Moon was September of 2010. I have not read the other 2 books yet. I enjoyed this one, so I may pick up the other ones if I can find them. I don't know, may or may not, we'll have to see on that one. Overall, I give this book a rating of, I'm going to say 3.8 out of 5 stars. It's well written. It's an easy storyline to follow. It's got some comedy to it. But at the same time, there are parts of it I feel are kind of take away from the story. It's like it was well thought out, but at the same time, there's just a few areas where I feel like they take over the story more than they should. Just my own personal opinion. The romance part of it, yeah, it's got a good story to it, but I would consider this more of a very mild thriller than I would a romance. But it's a good book nonetheless. It's not one you're going to see me buy from my bookshelves and reread constantly. But at the same time, you know, if I'm bored and this is what I have to read, I'll pick up a copy and read it. You know, nothing wrong with that. So guys, here's my question for you. For those who've read the trilogy already, or for those who have read other books by Heather Graham, do you like them? Do you like her style? Is there any certain Heather Graham book out there that you would recommend to someone who doesn't normally read her? If so, leave a comment. Let me know what you would read from Heather Graham. And if I can find a copy of it, I just might pick one up and check it out. Alright guys, remember, like, subscribe, and follow my channel for more news. Check out my other videos. Until next time guys, keep reading.